folks, to the July 12th, 2023 Aries Working Group call. We're glad you're here. We have some cool stuff to talk about today. This is a Hyperledger call, and so the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation and the code of conduct for Hyperledger are in effect. Links are available in the agenda. You are invited to add yourself to the attendees list or make any other adjustments useful to the community in any way, or help take notes or any of that in the wiki that it drives our meeting notes. And we're glad you're here. Anyone new today that would like to introduce themselves?
Hi, this is Patrick. I'm here after a very long time. For those who don't know me, I'm a maintainer of one of the maintainers of Aries VCX project, and yeah, just came here to see what's around and try to ramp up our engagement with the wider community a bit.
Awesome. Glad you're here. And I thought I recognized your name, so when you spoke up, I was slightly surprised, but glad to have you back after a little while.
Yeah, thanks.
Any others? Well, I'm glad all of you regulars are here too. Any of the code bases or the projects want to offer a release status or a work update? This may be semi-related, but there was yesterday, I believe, we had the AFJ workshop. Is anyone able to report on that?
This is Tim here. I guess it was a great workshop in terms of walking through the changes to AFJ 4.0.0, especially the new modules and the changes in architecture. I know a number of people on this call around that, so I don't know if there's other thoughts, but I think it's from marketing and getting the message out there and what's happening. I thought it was really successful. Really.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim.
Hey, Sam, a couple of things on CredX. There was a bug found in the CredX implementation such that on verification, when there are multiple revocation registries involved, the verification would fail, even though it was a valid presentation. So that is fixed in 0.3.3. And as well, there is a breaking change version coming out real soon now that I believe it actually came out last night. That is a new version, so it'll be 1.0. And it has some breaking changes and a bunch of performance optimization. So it uses the new, removes the dependency on URSA and changes it to use the CL Signatures library. CL Signatures library has a pile of new features to it and new optimizations. So things like generating a revocation registry is half 50% speed up or something like that. It's we unfortunately had to this was discovered last night. It has to be called 1.0 because of a pip, some handling in pip that was done. So just to prevent breakages in the community, it was named to 1.0 rather than the 0.4 as what might be expected. PIP requirements motivated the 1.0 version update. So there you go. So that's what's going on there. The CL Signatures library is had the most work it's had for quite a while. It's got a bunch of new things in it, and non-creds, the non-creds Rust implementation will transition to it as well. Oh, and I should say that the CredX bug fix only was actually in the Python wrapper, so it did not affect other places where it was being used.
Awesome. Thanks for those notes, and be sure to hit up those releases for fixed bugs and new awesomeness.
Yeah, so basically 0.82 and Octopi did pull in the new version, so 0.82 will have that. Obviously, if you're pulling in the requirements, you get the 0.33 version in older versions of Octopi, but if you are using the images, you won't get that new one unless you go to 0.82. So there you go.
Awesome. Any other updates?
Not necessarily an update, but so basically, one of the reasons I arrived for this meeting is I had a talk with Clesio from VCGov, and we were talking about Aries VCX, and he suggested that I come around sometime and talk about a bit about what we are doing, because apparently we are a bit of a mysterious project. We haven't been engaging much, so I have some like a short, I don't know, I call it a presentation or few drawings laid out, so I can show that, but I'm not sure if this is the right time or later.
Let's add that onto the agenda, and I think we're actually gonna have time today. Maybe I'm over optimistic, but if not, then can definitely be on the agenda tomorrow. Does that work?
For sure, yeah.
You mean next week? You said tomorrow.
I did not mean tomorrow. I meant next week. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's one more, but yeah, next week is fine too. Yeah.
In other news, the Aries working group call is going daily. Just kidding. Cool. Excellent. Okay. Well, with that, here's what we have on the agenda for today. James Ebert has a community selector demo and some conversation there. We also have the update with the did peer unqualified did migration that is not yet done, but there has been progress made, and so there are some comments and everything else, and want to draw folks' attention to that so that we can move forward on that. And then Helen and Alex, actually, let's do this first, because you've got this this survey link, which I think would be excellent, and if folks are really bored with what's going on in the meeting, they could fill it out. And so let's actually address this first. And then we've got the VCX update, and if we'll spill over if necessary, and to make that happen. So that's the agenda. Are there any adjustments that we want to make before we dive in? Additions, corrections? All right. Helen, do you want me to, or Alex, does one of you want the floor for a minute to talk about the survey?
Should I take it, Helen?
Go for it, Alex. I think you're getting the results in, aren't you?
Yeah, so the short version is we have a small survey. It takes 3 minutes. Please do it now if you can, because no time like the present. And it's a chance to have your say on how we communicate Aries and what the priorities are in our messaging. So we have a pretty good steer, and we're going to run this for a few more days, I would imagine. But if you have a sense of like, oh, we never say this enough about Aries, or it's really important that we mention this right up front, or this is not important, why do we keep dwelling on it, or whatever it may be, or if you've got resources, when people come new to Aries, if they're developers or execs, and you always point them a certain direction, there's a space in that survey to put those links in to help other people, so you can build a really great getting started type resource for this. So please do that. Any questions, let either of us know, and we'll give you the results shortly and weave those into our new Aries marketing comms. Anything to add to that, Helen?
Yeah, just to build on what he was saying, as in terms of resources that you direct people to, we would like to incorporate a sort of community resources page to the website, or kind of to the webpage. So yeah, if you have recordings or meetups or white papers or Medium posts or whatever that you would like represented from you, from your company, from your organization, whatever, on that sort of community page, it's a great representation to show that you are your organization, your team, whatever, is part of Aries. It's a great, just in terms of visual marketing, etc. If there's somebody on your team who we should talk to about marketing, about incorporating other links, whatever, please add those, because again, we just want to show the diversity of the community. We want to show all the different ways that people are using it, using Aries, are building on Aries, are contributing to Aries. So yeah, any meetups, ask me anythings, etc. Please include those links, and that would be helpful. Thank you again in advance.
Awesome. So there's the link. I'm also going to drive or to copy this and to the meeting. Oh, Stephen already did it. Read my mind. So please fill out the survey, and a huge thanks to Helen and Alex for driving this forward. The marketing of the work that we do is as important, if as the work itself. And we have us developers have done a subpar job with marketing, and grateful for Alex and Helen and working with us to make this happen. So they need our input, and please participate. Grateful for that. Anything else on the marketing?
I don't think so. That's it for now. We will have another meeting of the Aries Marketing Working Group at the end of the month. Again, all are welcome. Please reach out on Discord or whatever if you have any questions, or if there's somebody on your team who you think would be a good fit to have those discussions. Very, very low bar for barrier for entry for the Aries Marketing Group. Anybody and everyone is welcome. So please spread the word for folks to join.
Awesome. Thanks. And next on our agenda is the community selector demo by James. And hopefully James doesn't mind. I'll stop screen sharing, James, so you can set up. Hopefully James doesn't mind a little bit of a prelude. We have talked about the concept that he's about to show several times, including an IW, and to talk about the complexities of deep linking in mobile apps, and notably the differences between Android and iOS and how to actually accomplish that. James got tired of the talking and the not progress, and he made a thing. And so with that, I will pass all the attention over here to James to talk about the thing he's made.
That was a great intro, Sam. This is the traditional deep link that has been proposed and used so far within the community. And as Sam spoke to, I've gone with an approach of using the Android intents to actually launch the Android portion. This isn't anything super special. The part that's the cool part here is what I've done with the iOS universal links. So I'm going to jump into just showing you what this actually looks like in practice for the user, and then can talk a little bit more about the details of what I've done. So I set this up as a service that I'm hosting, and this can be put in front of any issuer. The invitation just goes into the out-of-band query parameter. So this can be stood up without the issuer actually knowing in front of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the Android portion first, and to bring up my camera and scan the QR code. And this opens up the standard dialog for choosing which app you would like to use, which is awesome in the open source context. I'm going to use Horror Plus because that's what I've got set up to do it. and this will add the specific contact. Let's take a look at the iOS portion, which my phone locked. So I had to restart that. In this one, I sent myself the same link, so to demonstrate what that would look like from being sent the link. And there's a large delay screen share apparently, but it brings up this dialog option for iOS in where we display a variety of apps that can handle the invitation. And this will, depending on what the user chooses, will allow them to open the invitation with that app. This is a list that would be managed in the open source community and points to the individual user universal links registered by each of the individual app creators. So yet again, I'm going to do Holder Plus because that's what I've got set up. And that immediately pulls me over into the app and establishes the connection. It looks like the screen share stopped, but that's the behavior that happened there.
Your session, we saw timeouts on your screen in 1 hour. The screen sharing out.
Oh, it looks like it just was really slow. But yeah, that's the behavior of the iOS is opens up into the app and opens the contact up. This is configured utilizing a JSON list of configurations. So a individual organization could, in a GitHub config, could add their app and where the iOS universal link is and their icon and potentially other items such as what kind of things they support, as in do they support DIGCOM v2? Do they support this specific goal code, et cetera? There's been a couple of ideas that we've talked about that could go here, but this is the basics at least. And the final thing is that I guess there's two other things. I've also set this up to be able to do a proof of concept on showing that it's possible to do URL shortening with this, in which you put a URL shortener in here, and so if you have really long invitations, this can also handle that as part of the process. And one of the benefits of how this is set up is that you are able to scan this with a standard camera and actually be able to resolve this page still while being pretty closely tied to how the out-of-band URL shortening is specified in the RFC. So then the final bit is the thought that this is something that could be the not URL shortening version is a front-end web page only and can be hosted by any issuer, but it also could be something that is hosted by the community, such as at digcom.org. And that could be a standard place of managing the community, having a community selector that is managed there. Sam, is there thoughts you want to add? Because I know you had some wonderful thoughts that you added at the DIGCOM users group when I presented this on Monday.
So at the risk of being a little over clear about what's happening, what this revolves around a URL that can be loaded in a browser. And then when you load that URL, magic happens. Will you describe the magic that happens when the URL is loaded in a browser? Does that question make sense?
Yes. So when you load this URL in the browser, for Android, when you visit the page, it'll immediately try and open up a application using an Android intent. One of these guys, and if they have an app that is capable of handling that, it will allow you to select the app and open the invitation. On the iOS behavior.
Well, hang on. Before you leave there, what happens if you don't already have an app installed and it tries the Android intent?
It will fail and will leave you on the page. And so what we probably want to add to the behavior here is information for downloading having a list of options for downloading an app if you don't already have one.
Right.
So I don't have that here yet, but that would be ideal.
And so when the page loads, to skip back 1 second, it does some JavaScript evaluation to figure out whether you're on iOS or Android.
Yes.
And then if it's Android, it does the stuff you just described. And if it's iOS, then keep going.
Yep. For iOS, the behavior is that you will get to the web page, and then once you choose which option you want to go to, this URL that you click on would take you to there's the two options. If you have the app already installed, it will detect that, hey, you're trying to go to, I'll actually just click it here. This is the URL that I configured it to be on. And if you already have the app installed, it will immediately take you into the app and not actually resolve this in the browser. If you don't have the app installed, it'll take you here, and you'll want to have marketing information to indicate, hey, this is how you install on iOS, and take you over to the App Store. Yeah, did that answer your question, Sam?
It totally did.
Sorry, what do you mean it detects if the app install or not? Is that based on the domain that you were mousing over?
Yes, so specifically this domain here, I've set up a Apple App Site Association, so it will detect if I visit the specific URL and will bypass the browser and put it into the app.
Okay, but in your case, is the didcom.james something?
I set up the holder universal. Yeah.
Okay, but you're proposing that we have this selector somewhere, maybe didcom page, a didcom domain or something like that.
Yes, and the benefit here is it allows the user to choose from a variety of applications versus having it be between an issuer and a specific holder.
Right, but in that case, then there shouldn't be an app register.
Correct. So the ability to register the app sort of as the automatic thing allows for those that do have an app that they want to promote. They can of course take this code and or any modification of it and then stick it and configure it to launch their own app by default. The idea of a community selected one is for those that want the invites to work with a variety of apps and aren't promoting a specific app themselves, could then use the community hosted one in order to make that happen.
Okay, so I suggest that you, the app vendor, say BC app holder, you could, if you have your own domain register, you go directly to your wallet. You would not suggest any community selector whatsoever. But if you want to support the community selector, then you wouldn't be using that domain. You'd be using a didcom domain or the community domain.
Yes, and there would be no app on iOS specifically linked to that community domain. There would be no preference there.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a way to save your preference once you, because you wouldn't want to use this once you have an app installed and you're using it all the time, you may just want to say that I always want to go to this one.
I've thought about that, and I haven't actually implemented anything, but I thought that we could utilize some form of cookies, especially if it's a more consistent community selector. Then I could see that being done, but I haven't actually implemented that behavior.
Thanks.
Kim, your hand is up. Did that get answered?
No, I was going to say that the community selector, we'd likely want to make that open source so that if you wanted to have custom branding on your own landing page or something, you could do so, but still have the list of community available apps.
Totally. And the configure list of community apps can be obviously hosted in like a GitHub repo, and that asset could be read out by anyone, even if you're not using sort of the community hosted version of it. So this config file is what it's based off of, and that could be pulled and utilized. And so when people had an app that they wanted to be involved in the community selector, that would happen just via a pull request to the PR the repo that holds this configuration file. In that way, that could be open for. And again, the whole thing is voluntary, both for the configuration and the usage of it. But it has some really nice advantages for those that do want to use it.
So I kind of missed the start of the demo when you're doing Android, but I believe when I tabbed back to here that the from the questionnaire, didn't that open up the Android app picker? And if so, like, doesn't, at least in Android's case, doesn't have like a choose this one by default?
It does. Most of the annoyingness that's being solved here is the fact that iOS doesn't have an intent system like Android does, and so we're compensating for that and removing as much of the jankiness as possible.
Okay.
So if you're on Android, it simply tries to launch the intent, and then Android handles that intelligently, both if you have it installed and if you don't. So really, the remember my choice is an iOS related issue via cookies anyway, is an iOS related issue because it doesn't have anything of the sort. So for those that don't understand, if you do attempt to launch something, even from a protocol perspective on iOS, and you have one or if you have more than one application installed that's capable of handling that, then the which app opens or gets it is like a semi-undefined behavior. Like it may happen randomly, which is really unhelpful. And so rather than rely on the same type of a thing that from a protocol perspective that iOS supports, then falling to the universal links, which is weirdly named but is linked to a specific app, is the method that James is using here. So this is an attempt to provide each OS with the best that OS can manage, and there's a lot more handholding required on the iOS side. So the idea behind the community selector is for those that are not promoting a specific app, and certainly you could use this code in the open source way as Kim mentioned. You could always copy and use it yourself, of course, to great utility. But it also kind of makes sense to host a community version of this that prefers no app specifically, in order to make that happen. The other thing that could be done to avoid preference, James talked about, we had some ideas that you might want to indicate that a specific goal code or something was involved, and you could specify that, or the community selector could respond to that, meaning it could auto filter by the types of apps capable of receiving that sort of thing in order to guide the users. And we could also, after the list is selected, it could randomize that list to show no preference one over another, when that's created on the community holder, again, to avoid showing a preference there. Since this is a DIDCOM kind of issue, even though it's heavily of a concern to the Aries community, one of the proposed places to host this would be on didcom.org. which is hosted over at the diff with the users group there, simply because it is a DIDCOM specific issue, and this would allow for any DIDCOM out of band invitations to link through and then leverage that community selector. So that would be of use to us, but not necessarily something that this community would have to do independently.
Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you.
So to be a little more direct, is this stunned silence as in this is amazing, or is this stunned silence as this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen? Even if you don't have anything to say about it, getting a reaction from things you think would be useful would be helpful here.
I'll give it a thumbs up. So, this is a really hard problem, and iOS has not made it easy. And the danger of all of this stuff is going back to the OIDC world, where only a few big providers are ever included. So, no, this is a great approach as far as I'm concerned to try and resolve that.
Cool, and there's a thumbs up from Akeef as well, and a comment from Tim. Anyone else want to voice an opinion or flash an emoji on the reactions thing?
I think it's actually pretty amazing, because not only like are we having this, selector that says choose your app that you want to launch, but this does provide that sort of advertising avenue where if someone goes to one of these links and they've never heard of one of these apps before, they get to view sort of all the different apps that are available and check them out. A nice discovery process that way.
I think this is great. I think the only maybe thing would be provide a hint where maybe the issuer verifier may have a opinion, maybe a wallet support a specific protocol in a way that they need to provide. So a hint where the issuer verifier can also have opinion about which one or which ones to choose.
So you're talking about the community selector, which is supposed to have no opinion, but that the creator of the invitation could express an opinion about the ones they think ought to be at the top. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Cool idea. And I think given that that's the inviter, that's their preference, I think that would be a cool way to
Yes,
support that.
it would be their preference. Again, if the inviter or the verifier, whoever is creating that link doesn't have any preference, then that's fine. It goes into the list.
Right, which means that there's a yeah, that's a nice halfway ground between using the community selector with no opinion, and then creating your own, of course, which expresses your opinion. That's a nice middle ground to be able to express preference there.
So given that Android will maybe take you to a dead end if the app is not installed, would maybe the same approach address that?
It could be. You can't really detect on iOS or on Android actually that the app is installed without just attempting to throw the user over there.
Correct.
Which is why they're going to have to click on they have to use the NASCAR selection page here to make that happen. So
what could be done though is that if they don't have any apps installed, or if they like paste it, the specific they paste it into Chrome, it'll load the page without actually auto directing them, and you could have we could have information of like, oh, we need to install an app, and give them a list of options that could also be configured alongside the iOS ones. That could be an option there.
Right. So Colton mentions in the chat the issuer requests a wallet with Q&A support, but not all wallets support Q&A. There's the terse way of doing that would be a goal code, but certainly I have thought about an enumeration of the type of protocols being supported and a way to derive that out of the invitation with as little hassle as possible in order to sort of recommend the apps that support the types of protocols that you would need. And so obviously that you want to approach that sort of a thing with care, but definitely the more useful we can make this without getting ourselves in trouble, the better. And by getting ourselves in trouble, it wasn't a sense of app preference, but just making it so complex that no one can use it is what I meant by getting ourselves in trouble. But this is a fantastic shot. And thank you for comments. Any other? I don't. Is anyone in particular think this is a bad idea? We've heard things voiced in favor of it, but I don't want to. Awesome. This may have been obvious from what I said before, but I think this is great. We talked about this and about the conceptual, like how you would handle this sort of a thing, and James just did it instead of talking about it. So awesome. Stephen gets a thumbs up as well. Cool. Thank you, James.
I just want to ask, I'm assuming there is some type of governance or approval about who gets into that list, mainly to avoid potentially bad actors or hackers who have clone wallets that are open source and create ones that are not great.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the governance is going to end up being controlled by the repository that this is put inside of.
Okay.
And so the community that to sort of manage this is I think is the DIDCOM users group, and anyone that's open, anyone can be involved there and have an opinion, etc. And any conflicts or issues would be resolved by the maintainers of the repo, right? That's the governance that by default when things are managed in a GitHub repo. And so that would apply there. But James, we're likely going to need to, in the repo itself, describe a little bit of that, just a sort of baseline governance that could be expanded later if we need to help people understand what's going on here and who makes choices, meaning those in the community that serve as maintainers, et cetera. And that way that can all be observed in the actions of the GitHub repository that manages the config file and the code.
I'm just asking to avoid really bad actors that are hackers, clone things, and want to sideload an app that is potentially just broadcasting all their, I don't know, private keys and stuff.
There's a possibility, Sam, we have part of that governance, some like verifying the app is on the like it appears to be coming from a correct author on the individual app store or something like that.
Yes. Well, there's also the issue of good intent but failure to deliver, which means that someone has built an app and it has the best intentions in mind, but the user experience going into it is not great. Like, what do we do as a community, right? There's a handful of edge cases there. There's the bad actor thing, which is a lot less hard to ferret out. There's also some issues of like, or what happens if you have an app that is no longer supported but was in the list but now is having issues. Like, how do we handle those sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
And that's a piece of governance there as well that's necessary. So absolutely.
I believe the way I'm understanding this is there's two parts. There's the code to do this, and then there's deployments of the code, one of which could be at didcom.org.
Yes, that's correct.
So in other words, there could be a pan-Canadian hosting of this, which only needs the governance from the pan-Canadian community and so on.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that can lead to different governance for the or could basically choose which one to use at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The goal behind the DIDCOM.1 is not that everyone uses it, but that people can use it if they don't have a reason to have an independent one.
Right.
And then anyone who does have more strict requirements, and I imagine governments will have opinions about this sort of thing, can of course run the code themselves, which can point to whatever config they want, and they could only allow specific applications that have been vetted according to their governance process.
Right.
Yes. So
a really good example is the URL shortening, where we may not want to host all of that infrastructure for the backend on didcom.org, but someone who needs the URL shortening as a good use case for them having their own instance of that.
Yeah, it's a good example. Kim.
I'm going to voice an opposing view here for a moment. We're under the assumption here that people have multiple wallets installed on their phone. It might be perhaps my perspective here is that it'll be much like browsers where people will have one app that they'll choose to manage their wallets under, and so this problem that we're trying to solve may not actually be a thing.
So if there was a universally good way to indicate that on iOS and Android, I would agree with you. And the mechanisms on Android can allow people to say, no, this is the app I want to use. Or actually, in Android, if there's only one app installed, it just goes directly to the app and doesn't give you the selector. So in that case, the problem you indicate where most people will only have one is a non-issue on Android. On iOS, they may only have one, but we can't actually detect that. And so we don't know if they have 0 or 1 or more installed. And so this is a reasonable compromise by allowing people to pick that application and then perhaps checking a box that says, remember my choice, that will then effectively bypass that automatically and launch it into that application in the future for that user. So I think that in the Android case, if that happens, then it's actually really fluid and it doesn't happen. But it also gives the user, if they click a link and they don't have an app installed, it can guide them to install that app, which I think is really useful. So I think you're right that the common case is not more than one app, but even in the not more than one app case, I think this still provides a substantial amount of utility to the user. In order to make this happen, and certainly some utility to the issuer or the person producing the QR code invite because of the abstraction that it lets them have. Tim?
Yeah, it does one other thing I think it's important. It removes the risk, very real risk, that issuers and verifiers will just lock it to a specific app if they don't have a mechanism like this. So I mean, that's what Apple wants you to do, right? Their whole design is for an app to be tied to domain, and that's the only app that gets launched. So that's the flip side of this, is that issuers will just start to say, I'm only going to support Apple Wallet, I'm only going to support this or that. So,
and they still may, but at least
they still may, yes, but at least there's an option here.
Yeah, at least we're giving them an option that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other comments?
I was just going to say that with the case that Kim brought up of like how, people might have things stored in one browser or whatnot. Like even my phone, since I have multiple browsers on my phone, it still brings up the selection popper whenever I open up links because I've not set that default browser. It's the same concept with Windows. You open up a photo editor and, you may only have one photo editor, so it'll open up the default. But if you happen to have more, it'll ask you until you pick that default.
Good point. Awesome. Thank you, James, for obviously doing the work, but also presenting with us here today. I think further discussions will happen on the community-hosted version of that, are likely to happen in the DIDCOM users group, and we can provide updates as it happens, but I think the main discussion will happen over there. And then we can begin to experiment and correct and improve, et cetera, based on the work that James has done. So thank you for that. So next up on the agenda is the unqualified DID migration update. And this is the goal, to summarize, of moving off of any unqualified DIDs that remain in the ecosystem, but in a way that transitions them to DID peer DIDs, which can help that to happen. I have done a little bit of work. I had volunteered last week. The first one here is that I've made a couple of changes to the DID peer method spec for NumAlgo 3, as suggested by Daniel Bloom. And so it actually moves from a lowercase hexadecimal encoding to use a multi-hash base 58 BTC encoding. So you'll notice the Z here, which is the indicator of what the type of this hash actually is. And the examples have been updated to make this happen. There's one notable one here in that the starting thing that we hash with includes the dot to make it consistent with the instructions that existed here, meaning we exclude the didpeer2 prefix, but that leaves the dot as the separator value for this to actually happen. So here are the changes that I have made to the spec in according to that. But this definitely needs some review by folks that care to make sure that has been done correctly. I got comments from both Daniel Bloom, who contributed a fix or a clarification, and Daniel Hardman as well, that's going to do this. So he mentioned he will merge by the end of the week unless someone objects, so that's there. So please speak up if you see corrections or improvements that need to be made on that. The other thing that I had committed to do was to write the beginning of the unqualified DIDs transition community coordinated update, which I have done here. And so this is a new RFC that follows that same pattern, that actually talks about what needs to happen with the links to the relevant places, and the steps that will actually occur as part of that. I preliminarily targeted this at the middle of October, but of course this whole thing is subject to debate, and there's actually some pre-work that needs to happen, meaning everything has to be nailed down before we can really change the status on this, and it's something that we're targeting as a community. So I just wanted to highlight those steps forward and the need for review and feedback there. Stephen, an hour ago, has made a couple of really good comments, including this one. I did not mention that the public DIDs that are unqualified need to be transitioned to whatever appropriate DID method there is. So DID solve might be one of them. We're still rolling out support for DID Indy across all the ledgers. The code's been written, but updates are required to make that happen. And so that needs to be addressed here. And then Stephen, you also mentioned that there's some open issues on this legacy DID transformation, and that perhaps the transformation ought to be included in this repo directly as opposed to linked to a separate repository. Any comments you want to make there, or is that enough said?
Yeah, I opened some issues. Maybe what I'll do is just do some PRs against his Timo's repo, but I still think I'd rather see this be just a link to an appendix of this RFC, rather than in Timo's account. That's all.
Right, and I had waffled on that and ended up linking it so that it would come up in discussion, and then we can certainly reference back his original work. I don't want to remove credit for the work that they've done, but it would be really useful to have it just aligned, with.
Yeah.
From a repository perspective, be stored alongside so that there aren't any confusion issues or whatever else. Cool. So you also mentioned are these a couple more things that need to be resolved? That looks closed. I think we fixed this. And I think this was Daniel's issue 50, which I'm addressing with the PR. What was 53? That's closed. So I think the issues are done pending that merge, and then we have we of course have the issues against what Timo has written, just to make sure that any clarifications land there, and then we could actually kind of make this happen. We had discussed last time, these are notes copied over from last time, about didpeer versus also including didpeer 3, and so this is the indicator there. One of the remaining issues is that I believe we need to indicate somewhere how you can discover support for the DID method of DID, or the numalgo of didpeer 3 with the discover features protocol. And that would allow you, prior to transitioning a message over to DID Peer 3, you could detect support for that on the other side. And I don't believe that's been documented anywhere about how that might actually occur, which I think would be a necessary part of adding DID Peer 3 support. DID Peer 3 being an optimization of DID Peer 2 that both parties can use as long as they support it. And so detecting support on the other side turns out to be an important piece of that. And of course, we have the Discover Features protocol, so that's the right way to do that, I think, within DIDCOMP. But we haven't described what indicator should be used in that protocol. Any questions or comments about anything related to the DID peer unqualified DID migration?
I was trying to find the PR that you mentioned about going from base 64 to base 58.
That's here. It's a PR 55 on the pure method.
Okay,
pure
can
DID
you
method spec.
do you mind paste that?
Yeah.
What is the motivation behind that? Because base 58 is not a package or algorithm that is provided, for instance, out of the box to Node. So we need a kind of a third-party library.
This was Daniel's recommendation. Base 58 avoids, should you end up in a circumstance where you have to transcribe something, it avoids confusing characters, which is the reason it was created. And so this is the issue that motivated this. And this is really to remain more consistent with the other methods. So DID Peer 2 uses the same encoding. Yes. So DID Peer 2 uses the same encoding, and so DID Peer 3 using the same encoding presumably doesn't add any additional code complexity because of the existing dependency.
So if the motivation behind is to make it easy to transcribe, and I understand base 58, again, Bitcoin uses that for removing kind of ambiguous characters, 0 and letter O and so on, to be easy to type it. Is this a direction that we're moving to make it easy to type it in?
No.
Okay.
At this point, that was just the way that DID Peer 2 was written. And so this is just maintaining consistency with what DID Peer 2 was doing. This is not a change to what DID Peer 2 was doing.
Okay.
It's been doing this all along. There's definitely no recommendation, of course, that an invitation URL be transcribed, but it does help when you're looking and debugging stuff to be able to look at it as it is. But the real motivation is just consistency. Is that it was done before, and there isn't a super compelling reason to not do it, given that it's not an additional dependency that we're adding in this step.
Okay. And I guess where I'm going is that again, you said there's no direction, but is that set precedence now OOB and all those payload for URLs to move towards base 58 or not necessarily?
No, not necessarily. This is
Okay.
just within the peer the DID method, the peer DID method spec itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So here's that, and I drop that in the notes as well. The other thing that ought to end up in the notes here is, of course, this 739 has the new PR here. I'll definitely need to go address those comments that, of course, Stephen made and that anyone else makes as we make this happen. So that's awesome. Any other comments on this? So an issue of timing. I have the audacity to take a vacation, and I will be gone certainly the next Wednesday and probably the Wednesday after that. And Stephen has agreed to handle the meeting or handle those meetings. I will be out and relatively offline, and so from a timing perspective, I can go ahead and make these updates. Stephen, anything else would have to wait till I'm back. The idea there was that everything is resolved as possible. It doesn't have to necessarily. I just happen to open the PR. And so anything that we can resolve as sooner rather than later would be helpful for that to receive a community vote and then move forward. The idea is that on this particular update here, that we would select and agree upon dates, and then officially move to working to accomplish step 1, which is we all add support for this into our code bases, and that will give us the progress to move forward and move that into our development timelines, et cetera, to do that. So from a timeline perspective, I'm going to try and update this as much as I can today and tomorrow, so that I'm not holding things up. And then in the next 2 Aries calls, the goal is to reach consensus on this, so that we can have that voted and merged as soon as possible, even if it's before I'm back. But certainly, hopefully not long after that, if that's the case. Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me, Sam. I'll do it.
I apologize for not scheduling my vacations around Aries RFC work. I'm kidding a little, but sounds good. Thanks, folks, for coming. We didn't get to the VCX update, Patrick. I apologize for that. We ended up discussing the community selector longer than I had anticipated. But certainly, Stephen, that could be a good topic for next week.
We'll make it next week. Can I plan that?
Yeah, sure. I'll be there.
Good. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, folks. Hope your week is a great one.
Take care, all.
Have a good one.
Hey,
Bye. Thanks.